Hey, I'm Mandee from STONED Co. Thank you for having me on Dro TV. We're so excited to be here talking about our first time smoking, and I'm excited for everybody to reach out for STONED Co. and discover what we have to offer.
Welcome to My First Time, the show about your first time getting high on marijuana. I'm your host, Mike Freeman with Dro TV. Today, I'd like to welcome our guest, Mandee from the STONED Co. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, so our pleasure. Thanks for coming on Dro TV. You can find more of Mandee and the Sophisticated STONED Coalition on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. They're everywhere. So STONED Co. We'll have the links in the description below. So Mandee, thanks again. Let everybody know where you're located and a little bit about what you got going on in the cannabis world.
Well, I'm located in Long Beach, California. My best friend and co-founder of STONED Co. She's from here, but she currently lives in New York. And we started STONED Co. as like a way of showcasing stuff that we wanted to see in the cannabis industry, and we wanted to showcase inspiring members of the community that kind of help fight stereotypes and show that that there's sophisticated stoners out there that we're not all the same. Not everyone's lazy, and people like to work out, and people like to eat healthy and not always, eat Taco Bell and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, we started that just to create our own little world and find people and connect people together and just create something beautiful.
Awesome. Yeah, I really like the whole concept of it. Was reading your about section on your website, so definitely want to get more into the coalition and what you guys are doing. But the show is my first time, Mandee, so please indulge us in the first time that you consumed the cannabis.
Well, I remember it like it was yesterday.
Awesome.
I was about 15 years old, and my best friend at the time smoked weed, and I hadn't smoked before. I was kind of like a good girl, and I just didn't want to do anything that was too rebellious. And I think I was going through something at home, and I was just stressed, and I was like, you know what? If she asks me to smoke, I'm going to say yes. So she's like, do you want to get high? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I'm just going to tell my mom that I feel sick today from school. I'm going to just be like, oh, I don't feel good. And as soon as she leaves, come over and we'll smoke. So as soon as my mom left, my friend came over. She lived down the street, and she was like, already like she's like, I need a water bottle. I'm going to make a bong out of a water bottle. And I'm just like, what? I'm like all new to this. I'm like, you can make a bong out of a water bottle? And I'm just totally new to this. And so we decide to play Smoke Two Joints by Sublime on repeat the entire time.
Nice.
So we had that on repeat the whole time, smoked a little bit, and then we were sitting there smoking. I think she made something out of a can as well. So she's just like making these devices to smoke out of, which is probably awful. But after a few minutes, I'm like, how do I know when I'm high? She was like, oh, you'll know. And I'm just like, but like, what does it feel like? She's just like, you'll know. And then after a while, she's like lighting it for me to help me. And I had like little hair hanging down, and she like accidentally like lit my hair on fire. And I remember going, like, it's like hilarious. And I'm like, okay, I'm high because I found that funny and I didn't get mad at you.
Sure.
So I'm like, okay, I think everything is actually hilarious right now. So we were just talking, and I'm just cracking up at everything. And then I noticed that I'm like, this is really weird. I feel like I can take like a big deep breath, which is like, at the time I was dealing with a lot of like anxiety. And so I had like breathing issues because of my anxiety. I would get like tightness in the chest. And so I felt like I couldn't take that deep breath. It felt like very hard to expand my lungs. And it was like right then I was like, I never thought that smoking something would help me breathe better. So
Wow.
it was just like a very unique moment where I was like, wow, I feel like I need to, this is my cure. Like I need to be smoking all the time now.
Right. Did it become
Uh,
a smoking all the time habit?
it kind of was just, I mean, we were young, poor teens. So as
Sure.
often as we could get our hands on weed, and especially at the time, it wasn't like you could just go to a dispensary. You had to just like know someone who would show up outside of your house and you would text them. And then a couple hours later, you might have them show up. So it was just kind of like whenever I could, I would smoke and I would never turn it down when it was offered.
Nice. Yeah, the good old days of texting and waiting. Um, I had a pager in high school, so
Yeah, exactly.
I don't even know if these younger generation even know what a pager is. There's no need.
What we have to teach them the old school devices, the struggles.
Yeah, yeah. You text 420 and then you wait, and
Oh
then,
yeah.
you know, yeah, it was a process. You had to really plan when, you wanted and needed weed, almost like a day or two before, you know?
It's true. They were usually pretty flaky too.
Yeah, 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 very flaky. Um, so cool. So I guess how did Jennifer, right? That's your
Hmm.
partner. How did you and Jennifer link up and come up with the idea for this company?
Well, we've been friends. Well, she actually was friends with my sister in middle school, and then I was kind of like a little younger. So as soon as I became more mature and less of a little child, she was like, "Oh, she's cool." And then we all kind of grew apart, and then we linked back together again, started talking nonstop, and we realized like we have a lot in common, and like we just really connected, and we just started talking every day, and we kind of brainstorm all these crazy ideas together, and we started coming up with an idea to create, like we're like, I feel like nobody is like they're on doing what we're doing, which is like we like to work out and we like to eat healthy and we like to get high. So we're like, it's hard to find people who are into the same things as us, because people that usually smoke weed, they tend to not be into that, or that they want to play video games, and which we love video games as well, and it's totally fine to be lazy. But we wanted people who were trying to better themselves and trying to like have that, that usefulness in your life where you're like, I want to be able to balance my consumption and be productive, and like we want to create like a little world for people to connect with people that are of similar interests and everything. So we threw out the idea, and we kind of started it without having any idea of where we were going with it. And as we started working on it, it became something that we really were like, okay, I can see this going in so many directions. And there's so many ideas that we have for the future of So Stoned that we're just like, this is going to be amazing. Like we just know that there's people who could really benefit from it.
Awesome. What's like some of the content you guys typically put up on your site?
Um, we like to feature people who are kind of breaking stigma. Um, we like to create like healthy recipes that are infused recipes, or either recipes that we've created or recipes that other people in the community have created. Sometimes we'll shout out people who are baking. Like we just did one where there's like cakes, beautiful cannabis cakes and stuff. We like just like beautiful inspiration that inspires us, anything that'll inspire us, people that inspire us, just amazing people that like even sports and dancing. And we just want to show like you can be anybody. You could be a doctor and you could be a stoner. Like, we just want to show that it's not just one little box of type of person. So it's a lot of just, sometimes it's just fun stuff, and sometimes it's more serious, with like nonprofits that are helping, um, especially people who were put in jail for cannabis, when now it's like this thing that's like so normalized. So we would like it to be normalized and not, we don't want anybody to be in jail for something that we're just, utilizing in a more normalized way, if that makes
Sure.
sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole list of things we could probably go over that are terrible for you, that maybe, if this plant that grows in the ground naturally that I can smoke and feel better from, um, it's like I can go eat a dozen cheeseburgers, I can go buy a case of beer and nobody has a problem. If I say I'm going to eat all
Hmm.
12 of these cheeseburgers right now, I'm drinking
Hmm.
30 beers right now, no one's going to be like, oh, you should go to jail for that.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
so yeah,
Yeah.
it's silly, but you know,
Yeah. And it's like, we want to show that like it doesn't have to be the way it used to be back in the day, and like there's so much that's changing about it, and it's like there's so many things nowadays that just make it so convenient, and like there's just like it, like the future of cannabis just inspires us every time. We're just like, wow, they're doing this now, and we're just fascinated with it.
yeah, and like to what you were saying, the expansion's happening pretty rapidly too.
Hmm.
We're learning about terpenes, and there's trichome
Hmm.
institutes and bud tender universities, and
Hmm.
um, I'm I'm 40. I graduated high school in 2000, and it was like swag weed. They just came out with. We just knew what like kind bud was, and we started getting
Hmm.
like better weed. Um, and I could have never envisioned where we are today, and who knows where we're going to be 5, 10 years from now, even.
For real. We and there's like so many like ways to smoke now that are like even healthier ways to smoke. There's like patches you can put on your skin that'll like absorb through your skin if you don't want to smoke, or there's like amazing like vapes that will help be like smoke free for people that don't really want to do the smoking aspect of it. So sometimes we'll feature different devices that people could smoke with, and we just want to share, whatever we think like we would be interested in. Like it, like what would I want to see if I were somebody, it's like if this was like a stoner magazine, it's inspired by people that we think are going to be interested in similar, you know, people like us that are interested in that. Cause I'm like, we can't be the only ones that are into this. There's got to be other people out there.
Sure.
Uh,
Now, you're in Long Beach. You've been there. You grew up there.
I grew up in Los Angeles, but
Okay.
moved over to Long
Okay.
Beach. Yeah.
Um, is California still at the forefront of new cannabis technology, new cannabis subgenres and subcultures, or are you seeing from where you sit, uh,
Mhm.
different areas of the country popping up as like a new, I don't know if Silicon Valley is the term, but like Oklahoma is like booming with cannabis now, and Michigan, and states that maybe you wouldn't even think of 5, 10 years ago when we started legalizing weed on a state level.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really spreading all over. For me, it's like I live in this little bubble where like everybody smokes everywhere, and like you can walk down the street and smell weed. Just that's just the area I live in, where it's like no one will bat an eye if you smell weed. Um, but I think surprisingly, a lot of states are coming up with like these amazing things where we just did like a feature on like cannabis lounges where you can go and like smoke, and there's like sometimes there's comedy shows and art, and like or just like somewhere cool to hang out with your friends, and like instead of like going out to a bar, you're going out to smoke. And there's some in like just random cities that you would think it would just be like in, Colorado and California or something, but it's popping up everywhere. And I think the future is going to be, that's going to be like the new thing. Instead of going to a bar, you can go to a cannabis lounge, and it's just completely the future. So I feel like right now it's easy to forget that not every state is like that. And I could like order delivery easily, and people in other states have to find somebody who might have some, and then they could call them to maybe deliver at like a minimum of $300 or something. So it's like I'm very spoiled in California, but I feel for people who aren't in the states that are quite there yet. But I do see the future is going to look more green.
Hey everybody, I want to quickly mention food forest abundance. Food forest abundance is a great way to create your own self-sustaining food forest and naturally occurring ecosystem that's commonly found in nature, but designed specifically for you. Through multiple layers of trees, shrubs, herbs, vines, rhizomes, mushrooms, and perennial vegetables, you can become your own supply chain without the typical maintenance required of a garden. From small spaces to large areas, both urban and suburban, Food Forest Abundance wants us to get back to our roots in nature by engaging with our food production in a meaningful way. For more information, click on the link in the description below and start your journey today. Okay, let's get back to today's episode. Yeah, and hopefully, like, from an authoritative level, they stop messing with, simple possession. And I'm in Orlando, and it's somewhat decriminalized. We hear stories of police like messing with people. I've never had a situation myself. I've only been here a few years, but earlier this year they had the first cannabis festival in Orlando, and people were. It was a big field, like maybe a couple hundred vendors. There was a stage. It was a nice festival event, music, Julian Marley. It was awesome.
Wow.
People were smoking, doing dabs. And there was the sheriff's department just sitting there doing security. And someone that's been coming to Florida for many years, like it was always like we had to hide it. And this was like the first time it really felt like, okay, maybe we're past the hump. Maybe we're not completely down at the bottom where everything's legal and we can go about our ways. But yeah, it was, reassuring to see that nothing happened at this festival. The sheriffs didn't need to do anything. Everyone was just having a good time, Any cool products that you guys have reviewed or come across yourselves that maybe you think would be worth mentioning on the show?
I'm trying to think. There's some really cool like vapes that we did a post on, like different types of like the healthiest ways of smoking. Those are really cool to look into. I would definitely, um, I love my bong, but it's good to give your lungs a little break. And there's, everybody is using them now, but there's filters from like Moose Labs where you can use like, it's like a little silicone mold like this, and you put a filter inside, and it helps to filter out the smoke from the bong and everything. They have some for joints and everything. I'm trying to think of other cool devices that we've talked about lately.
So the first time you smoked was out of a makeshift bong, so to say?
Makeshift bong, plastic or aluminum.
So it's like your Gatorade, jam burn a hole and stick a pen in there, some kind of bowl device.
It's really, I don't know how she made it. I'm just like, that's when I first learned that stoners are super innovative and could literally smoke out of anything. And she taught me how to smoke out of an apple as well. I'm like, man, there is nothing you cannot smoke out of. Like anything can be a bong if you truly believe. But
there's content creators smoking out of hot dogs and all kinds of pumpkins and crazy stuff.
I mean, it's eco-friendly, I guess.
that was leading me towards, are you a flower girl? You like concentrates, edibles? You said you still use the bong, so
Yeah, yeah. I'm definitely a flower girl. I was into concentrates for a while, but I felt like it really made me have to smoke so much more to reach that level that I like you just feel like no matter how much you smoke, you're not getting the same high. So I was like, okay, enough concentrates. I do love how good like they make you feel and everything, but I was like, okay, this is just crazy wrecking my tolerance. And then as far as edibles, I'm still like my best friend Jennifer, she loves edibles. I am trying to find the right dosage for me because every single time I just get so sick when I consume edibles for some reason. I just feel like I have like the spins, like as if I drank and smoked together and the world is spinning and I just get nauseous. I'm like, I don't know what it is, but it's like a different high for me. So I'm like, my body does not like that. There's been a few times where I had like a nice dosage and I was okay, but I'm still kind of hesitant to do edibles. But she's all about the edibles, and she's like, give me all the dosage. She's like, I'll take whatever you don't consume. But
hey, props to her.
yeah,
I guess
exactly.
there's some mathematical calculation you can put in your body weight, and it's supposed to um, spit out, your dosage, and um, so
Yeah, yeah. Like it's funny because like with weed, I've been smoking since I was 15 and I can outsmoke everybody. But with like edibles, it's like more than like 50 milligrams, and I'm just like, "Stir." And it's just not even like it's just more just like about how it hits you rather than being like too high. It's a weird high for me. So I'm just like, I don't really enjoy that high as much.
sure.
It just affects people differently, I think. So props to people who can do that because it's nice to be able to just consume something. I've made my own coconut oil and I've used that and I've been fine, which is really interesting because I used to add that to my coffee all the time and I was like feeling good and I was like, this is the edible for me. But,
Nice.
but usually I stick to flour.
Yeah, that seems to be the biggest issue, is the dosage level. Uh,
Hmm.
my girl doesn't consume cannabis, but she has migraines and, body aches. So from time to time, she wants to take an edible to ease her pain. And I'm
Hmm.
like a 50 milligram guy to get me going. And she's like 5 or 10 milligrams. So her first time experience was not a good one because she was way too messed up. And
Yeah.
of course, I'm to blame for that. So
Yeah, I remember having like half of it like a sugar cookie, and I decided to go to work like at my old job. I was like hosting at a restaurant, and I was at the front desk and there was like a line out the door and I'm helping people and I'm just like getting so dizzy and I'm just like, oh, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm gonna throw up. So I like ran to the bathroom and I was like, I'm not feeling it. I just told my work that I was feeling sick, but I was like, I literally got sick because I was too high, I guess. I don't know. It was just like a weird dosage and not every edible is made the same. So they're all made out of different things and different quality and everything. So could have been that as well.
sure. Yeah. And the ones that don't get tested, is it really the strong? Is it too strong? Is it less than they
Hmm.
say? What did they put something else in it? Um, I mean, I was from the era where you made weed brownies. That was the edible,
Exactly.
and you had no idea. I mean, I remember my best friend, he's like, my brother wants me to bring him an ounce of the best stuff. I mean, this stuff was like fluorescent green. And the
Hmm.
first thing he did was like, uh, poured it in a pot of water and it started boiling. And I'm like, that was like $250 worth of weed. Um,
Wow.
then we went back the next day. They had eaten all the brownies. They left us some crumbs, but we got messed up just from the crumbs. So that was like
Wow.
super, super strong. Um, but they were like musicians having a good time. Like they were home for the week or something. And um, like most cannabis stories, it always ends up with you having a good time and you don't die. So
Exactly.
I think that's the important part of the story here.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so Mandee, any future teases for what possibly might be coming out on the so sophisticated coalition?
Future teases, we eventually do want to have an app, which would be cool. We want to create like a community where you can kind of meet people that are up into the same things as you. Because I feel like there's a lot of people who are kind of lonely. They don't know how to make friends. Making friends as an adult is really hard. And because there's going to be other like-minded stoners that you can hang out with that are into the same things as you, we could have, you know, different groups for similar interests. And I think it would be a cool way to link up with people who are like you could just know like that person's cool because they're part of the So Stoned coalition. They're on my level, like we're into the same stuff. And it's like you a lot of people need that. They need that little friend group that
Sure.
it's like, how do people make friends these days? I don't know.
Yeah.
Especially when you're like kind of introverted. Like me and Jennifer both like we just are homebodies. We like to stay home. So we're like, we're never gonna meet anybody. Like, how are we gonna make friends? But so yeah, it's in the future, we'd love to create something for people to connect with. And I think that'll be really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And what better way than through weed, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
People when stoners meet, that will be it's always going to be good times. And we do eventually want to hold some events as well. uh, so many great events in the future that we have in mind. I don't know if I'm allowed to even speak them without ruining everything. I want it to kind of be a surprise, but
Sure.
we
Yeah.
want to have sophisticated events, you know. So go out and get fancy and do something fancy and be cool, or you know, have some super cool themed events and everything that are like an immersive experience. And I think we know what stoners will like, and it's just like we're like, I know what we would like, and if we're like, this is so dope, everyone's gonna love it. So we're really excited about everything that's gonna come way later down the road, but little bits at a time, a little bit at a time.
That's right. Awesome. Well, they're going to have to follow you and
We
stay
have
up with
to.
Stoned Co so that they can be aware of these events as they happen. So please let everybody know where they can find more of you.
All right. Yeah. So follow us at So Stoned Co. Um, our website, sostonesco.com, our Instagram, our Facebook, Twitter. Keep up with all our shenanigans. But mostly our Instagram is where you're going to find a lot of our posts that are on our website. So it's good to follow us.
Excellent. Yeah, definitely go give them a follow. All the links will be down below in the show notes. And for those of you watching this on YouTube, go down there and smash that like button for Mandee and leave a comment as well. Vapes, edibles, what's your edible of choice, I guess. Leave a comment down below. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you also need to go and subscribe to Dro TV, because otherwise you miss amazing guests like Mandee and interviews like this one. So
Yeah.
thanks again, Mandee, for coming on Dro TV. That's it.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And as always, smoke them if you got them. What's up, Dro TV family? You can now stream the audio version of all these episodes on your favorite podcast player. And if you like more episodes like this, check out this playlist we put together over here for you. And if you haven't already, subscribe to us on YouTube. You don't want to miss more great content from Dro TV. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, smoke them if you got them.